Hey there guys, alright, today we are back with another OSP video, this time, Miscellaneous Myths, Athens! I read that as I'm stupid. Anyways, nothing really curious what this is gonna be about if it's, I mean, it's Athens, so it has to be directly tied to Athena. Anyways, let's just go ahead and dive right in.
Real quick, we've got another couple Olympian pins for you. This pin pack features Poseidon.
Yo, I like that look of, I like
and
Poseidon.
Athena. Check out our crowdmate shop to snag them.
Eventually, you know, I would like to have money where I could just buy some OSP hoodie and wear that when I do OSP reactions. I think that would be fun. But I gotta pay for this last semester of college. I also bought a PS5. Managed to buy a PS5, so I'm broke. Anyways, I'm gonna shut up.
Before they're gone. When studying the ancient world, it becomes very clear very quickly that Athens is the archetypical shining city on the hill in the
Athens is definitely referred to as that in the ancient world, yeah.
Singular foundation of the greatest civilization in history, according to Athens, if you ask anyone.
Yeah, the Athenians would agree on that.
Else, of course, the story is very different.
Yes.
The fact is, for the majority of ancient Greek history, Athens was one of the smaller potatoes rattling around. It gets the barest of mentions in Homer's epics around the 800s BCE, where Athens is
Homer is dissing Athens.
brought up once in the infamous boatless chapter of the Iliad, and its sole representative hero, Theseus, isn't even mentioned and didn't really start getting any major press till the Romans rolled up around the turn of the millennium. Athens only scraped together the barest possible claim to fame in 490 BCE when they won the Battle of Marathon, and spent the next few decades gradually building up momentum before taking their place center stage starting in the mid-400s. After that, the first priority appeared to be making up for lost time, and Athens was pretty quick to start constructing narratives where they were actually always the coolest kids on the block and everybody knew it all along.
I'm gonna be honest, I think they succeeded in making that narrative.
Touched on this in some earlier videos, like how in the mid-300s BCE, Plato spent the bulk of his dialogues Timaeus and Critias talking about how the ancient empire of Atlantis was single-handedly defeated thousands of years prior by the totally real ancient Athenians by virtue of how totally rad and Athenian and real they were. But Plato was
Whoa, dude, sick!
far from the only one, and the most illustrative example of this retroactive spotlight hogging is probably Athens' official founding myth. Now, before we talk about the government-issued founding myth written after Athens became actually important, let's briefly touch on what the Athenian founding myth looked like before Athens hit it big.
Okay.
Don't worry, it's short. In the Iliad's boat chapter,
Sure? And they that held the strong city of Athens, the people of great Erechtheus, who was born of the soil itself, but Jove's daughter Minerva fostered him and established him at Athens in her own rich sanctuary. There, year by year, the Athenian youths worship him with sacrifices of bulls and rams. These were commanded by Menememe, son of Pythios. No man living could equal him in the marshalling of chariots and foot soldiers. Nestor alone could rival him, for he was older. With him there came 50 ships.
Athens is referred to as a well-built citadel and the land of great-hearted Erechtheus. Now, that's all we get about Athens at this point, but Erechtheus
sometimes Erechthonius, autochthonous, meaning born from Gaia and the earth, offspring indirectly of Hephaestus, raised by Athena, usually described as part snake sometimes credited as the inventor of the horse-drawn chariot.
Sometimes also called Erechthonius, the culture hero / first king of Athens, is a fairly interesting figure who has a little more detail. For one thing, he's autochthonous, meaning born from the earth. Essentially, he's one of Gaia's direct offspring. Gaia is mostly known for giving birth to monsters, and Erechtheus isn't entirely an exception. He's frequently described as having serpentine or draconic features, in some versions having warped or snake-like legs that make him difficult for him to walk. But he's also not just Gaia's kid. The actual story of his birth is, well, frankly, pretty gross. Basically, according to Pseudo-Apollodorus' Bibliotheca, Athena decides she wants some new weapons, so she goes to commission Hephaestus for some, but instead of just taking the commission, Hephaestus is struck by her beauty and tries to assault her. This obviously
Excuse me?
doesn't work out so hot for him, given that she's a war goddess and his legs don't even work, but as a result of certain icky parts of the process, Erechtheus is conceived by Hephaestus and born from the earth itself, and Gaia hands off the baby to Athena. Sources vary on how Erechtheus' childhood went, but TLDR, he ends up as the king of Athens, erects a statue of Athena in the Acropolis, founds the Pan-Hellenic Games, and, most interestingly I think, invents the chariot to help compensate for his own limited mobility. It's not really surprising that Erechtheus is the offspring of Hephaestus. Being a disabled inventor is pretty on brand. This myth is also interesting because sometimes Athena was credited as the first charioteer when she was referred to with the epithet Hippia, meaning of horses. A lot of modern pop culture Greek mythology says that she and Poseidon invented the chariot together, but unfortunately that apparently isn't sourced anywhere. Athena is first Zeus' charioteer is corroborated with the epithet, but if there was ever a more detailed myth about this, it unfortunately doesn't seem to have survived beyond a single anecdotal epithet. So that's pretty neat, but it's not really about Athens, is it? It's just about this cool king of Athens. And that's about the coolest story Athens had to offer until, bam, it's the turn of the 5th century BCE and Athens just invented democracy and kicked some Persian ass. Now they're a big
let's kick some Persian ass. Woo.
deal, and it's time everyone started acting like it. So Athens has its glow up and becomes important, and in fact, one of the first things they did around this time was make the official statement that all Athenians were autochthonous just like Erechtheus. Not to say that they all individually
Such was the natural nobility of this city, so sound and healthy was the spirit of freedom among us, and the instinctive dislike of the barbarian, because we are pure Hellens, having no admixture of barbarism in us, for we are not like many others, descendants of Pelops or Cadmus or Egyptus or Danaus, who are by nature barbarians and yet pass for Hellens, and dwell in the midst of us, but we are pure Hellens, uncontaminated by any foreign element, and therefore the hatred of the foreigner has passed unadulterated into the lifeblood of the city. And so, notwithstanding our noble sentiments, we were again isolated because we were unwilling to be guilty of the base and unholy act of giving up Hellens to barbarians. Take a shot every time this thing said Hellens.
sprouted out of the ground just like that, but that their ancestors did. The Athenians didn't settle Athens, they were born from it, molded by it. They didn't see anything that wasn't Athens until they were already a man, and by then it was nothing to them but nowhere near as cool as Athens.
I was molded by Athens. I can't do a good Bane
So yeah,
voice.
autochthonous pride was not what I was expecting to find researching this, but it's still pretty dang nifty. Anyway, now that Athens is a big deal IRL, it's time to give them a big deal founding myth that reflects how much of a big deal they are. One with gods and heroes and really important stuff like that. No other city did this, by the way. Sure, you get mythical founder kings bouncing around setting up cities and naming them after stuff, but it didn't usually get much fancier than that. Not so for Athens. In the 1st-ish century CE, Pseudo-Apollodorus writes his Bibliotheca, a compendium of Greek myths and legends derived from earlier works, mostly from around the 300s BCE. And in this Bibliotheca, he tells us the new and improved founding myth of Athens. For one thing, Erechtheus is no longer the first king of Athens. That honor goes to Cecrops, another autochthonous founder king who is also part snake. What a coincidence. He rules the Attic Peninsula, which he names Cecropia after himself, and is by all accounts doing a good job when the gods decide it's time to start divvying up the planet and the problems begin. See, Cecropia is just such a prime piece of grade A real estate that both Poseidon and Athena want a piece of it. Poseidon gets there first, and to mark his territory, he strikes the ground with his trident, producing a saltwater spring, and according to some later Roman writers, also a horse. Then Athena shows up, calls Cecrops over to make sure he's watching, and plants a nice little olive tree. Athena and Poseidon start butting heads over who gets the city, so Zeus intervenes to break
Oh, they're so cute when they're power hungry.
it up. Sources vary on who exactly
I really appreciate the tree. Oh, you're so sweet.
he makes the final judgment, but the popular attestation is that Cecrops judges the olive tree a more practical gift than a saltwater spring, so the city goes to Athena and is renamed Athens. Poseidon is unsurprisingly butthurt about
Roar! Oh, don't mind him. He's just a little cranky.
this and floods the nearby plains in revenge, most likely to explain why Athens was, at the time, located right next to 3 separate rivers. A few kings later, our old buddy Erechtheus pops back up in his old role as super cool king, though by this point they're pretty consistently calling him Erechthonius instead. What's neat about this is that Erechtheus' original name still gets independent press in this telling, since the saltwater spring Poseidon creates is called Erechtheus. It's spelled a little bit differently. Erechtheus also features in a more subtle role. In the Parthenon's massive, now lost statue of Athena Parthenos, there's a snake behind Athena's shield, and that snake is Erechtheus. Pretty dope. Now the really
That is pretty fucking dope.
cool thing about this specifically is that Athens is not the only snake-centric myth about a god claiming a city. Cecrops and Erechtheus are both offspring of Gaia with hefty amounts of snake symbolism and iconography, and they both play a mythological role in giving Athena control over their city. This story
They're obsessed with snakes, man.
structure also happens in Delphi. See, before Apollo took over as its patron, Delphi and its oracle were ruled by Python, an autochthonous child of Gaia who was, unsurprisingly at this point, a giant snake. Python is supposedly maybe Minoan in origin and was potentially originally framed as a
Udamans, Agathodamans, benevolent spirits were frequently portrayed as snakes or snake-adjacent figures. This image is from a shrine in Pompeii.
benevolent guardian spirit, though by ancient Greek times, Python was a little more antagonistic, in one story being sent by Hera to kill Apollo and Artemis's mother Leto. Regardless of why, Apollo killed Python and claimed Delphi and its oracle for his own. This story is referenced in the Homeric hymn
Now rot here upon the soil that feeds man. You at least shall live no more to be a foul bane to men. 365. Who eat the fruit of all the all-nourishing earth, and who will bring hither perfect hecatombs. Against cruel death neither Typhoeus shall avail you, nor ill-famed Chimera. But here shall the earth and shining Hyperion make you rot.
to Apollo in 522 BCE, meaning it's most likely a lot older than
Thus said Phoebus, exulting over her, and darkness covered her eyes, and the holy strength of Helios made her rot away there. Wherefore the place is now called Pytho, and men call the lord Apollo by another name Pythian, because on that spot the power of piercing Helios made the monster rot away.
That. I don't know exactly how far this Olympian superseding ancient snake gods thing goes, but even if it's just a coincidence, it's a hell of a through line to stumble onto. Can't believe all my mythological conspiracy theorying finally led me to friggin' snake people. All these thumbtacks and string might be getting to me. There's a room where
Self-insert fan fiction gets a bad rep for being self-indulgent and disregarding established canon to glorify the author, but it draws on the most profound and noble historical lineage of literature, according to Athens. Sadly, autochthonous pride is basically a nice way of saying race essentialist nationalism, and boy does it show in the Athenian literature about it. Yeah, it did. Why did it have to be snake people? It's always snake people, damn it. Yeah, that was Miscellaneous Myths, Athens. I have nothing here to add on. The Athenians were full of themselves. Isn't everyone? Thank you guys for watching. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next video. Peace.